Your English is excellent. You've been studying for years. You can write a formal email. You can follow a conversation. You might even score 90% on a language test. But there are probably 5 or 6 small mistakes you're still making. And here's what makes them so difficult to catch. They're completely logical. They follow a real pattern. They just follow the pattern of your first language, not English. Today, we're going to fix 8 of them. These are the mistakes that native speakers notice immediately, not because they're judging you, but because these specific patterns break the rhythm of English in a way that's hard to miss. Let's start with mistake 1, bored or boring. This one affects nearly every English learner, regardless of your first language. I am boring. The class was very interesting. She is very exciting. These sentences are all grammatically correct, but 2 of them are almost certainly saying something different than you intended. In English, adjectives that come from verbs boring, interesting, exciting, confusing, frightening, exhausting have 2 forms. The ing form describes what something does. The ed form describes how someone feels. The movie is boring means the movie causes boredom in others. I am bored means I personally feel bored. When you say I am boring, you are telling me that you cause boredom in other people. That's a very different claim. The reason this mistake is so common, in many languages, there is only one form for both meanings. French, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian. In all of these, the same word covers both the cause and the feeling. Your brain uses the pattern it knows, and that pattern doesn't match English. The fix. Whenever you use one of these adjectives to describe yourself or your feelings, use the ed form. If you're describing something else, a book, a job, a situation, use the ing form. Here is the test you can use for any of these words. Ask yourself, is this thing causing the feeling, or am I experiencing it? Mistake 2. I am agree. You've probably heard this one or said it yourself. I am not agree. I am disagree with you. In English, agree and disagree are verbs, not adjectives. You don't use am with them. The reason this happens, in several languages, there is an equivalent of I am in agreement, a construction that does use the verb to be. The brain applies that structural pattern to English. But in English, agree works like think or believe. You don't say I am think, you say I think. The fix is to remove am. I agree. I completely disagree. I don't agree with that approach. One related mistake worth mentioning. I am not understanding. The verb understand is what we call a stative verb. It describes a state, not an action in progress. Stative verbs don't normally take the continuous form in English. I am not understanding should be I don't understand. Mistake 3. I'm going to make a research on this topic. She did a good research. The problem here is that research in English is an uncountable noun. You cannot say a research or 2 researches. In French, Italian, German, and several other languages, the equivalent word is countable. You can have a research. That pattern doesn't transfer to English. What you can say, do research, conduct research, carry out research, and if you want a countable version, a study, a report, an investigation. I'm doing research on this. We conducted a study into customer behavior. If this is making you want to double-check everything you write, subscribe. There are more of these, and I'll keep them coming. The same logic applies to work as a noun. I have many works to do should be, I have a lot of work to do. Work in this sense is also uncountable. Mistake 4. Let's discuss about the problem. We need to discuss about the plan. Discuss already contains the concept of about built into the verb. When you add about, you're doubling it. The same way enter into the room doubles a preposition that's already implied in the verb. Let's discuss this. We discuss the proposal. They need to discuss the schedule. A few other verbs work the same way. Mention about. Just mention. I mentioned the problem is correct. I mentioned about the problem is not. The verb already carries the meaning. Mistake 5. It depends of the situation. It depends of what you want. The correct preposition after depends in English is on, not of. It depends on the situation. Whether it works depends on the context. It all depends on timing. In French, Spanish, Portuguese, and Italian, the equivalent expression uses a preposition that translates directly to of. That's why this mistake appears so reliably across so many different first languages. The pattern to remember, on, is the preposition English uses for conditions and influences. It relies on X. It's based on X. It depends on X. Here's something worth noticing about this list. Most of these mistakes aren't random. They follow the grammar of a specific other language, which means your version of English has a fingerprint. And with a little attention, you can find and fix exactly where your fingerprint appears. Mistake 6. Despite of the rain, we continued. Despite of his experience, he struggled. Despite does not take a preposition. It stands alone before a noun or noun phrase. Despite the rain, we continued. Despite his experience, he struggled. If you want to use of, the correct phrase is in spite of. That's the version that includes the preposition. Both despite and in spite of mean the same thing. They just have different structures. In spite of the rain, correct. Despite of the rain, not correct. Which of these mistakes have you been making? Drop the number in the comments. I'm genuinely curious which one is the most common. Mistake 7. I've been learning English since 5 years. She has worked here since 3 months. Since introduces a specific point in time, the moment something started. For describes a duration, a length of time. I've been learning English for 5 years. 5 years is a duration. I've been learning English since 2020. 2020 is a point in time. I've been waiting for 2 hours. Duration. I've been waiting since noon. Point in time. The reason this mistake is so common. In many languages, the same word handles both functions. English insists on the distinction. But once you have the rule, the test is reliable. Is this a moment or a length? Mistake 8. Can you explain me this word? She explained me the situation. The verb explain requires a preposition before the person you're explaining to. You explain something to someone. Can you explain this to me? She explained the situation to the team. He explained to me why it mattered. Now compare that with tell, which works differently. Tell me. She told me. He told us the answer. Tell takes a direct object. No preposition needed. Explain to me, preposition required. Tell me, no preposition. This is a genuine irregularity in English, and there's no underlying logic that makes these two verbs work differently. You simply have to learn which verbs take a preposition with the indirect object and which ones don't. Explain, suggest, describe, mention. All take a preposition. Tell, show, teach, ask. All take a direct object. These 8 mistakes share something worth noticing. None of them are random. Each one comes from a real, logical pattern in another language, a pattern that makes complete sense in its original context. Your brain applied that pattern to English, and English doesn't use it. That's actually useful information, because the fix isn't about memorizing a list of exceptions. It's about finding the specific points where your first language and English diverge, and building a new instinct at exactly those points. Pick one mistake from this video that you recognized in yourself. This week, every time you catch yourself about to make it, stop, fix it in the moment, and keep going. That's how the new pattern gets built. If this was useful, subscribe. I cover exactly this kind of thing. The nuances that textbooks skip, the patterns that native speakers take for granted, the specific points where fluency actually lives. New videos whenever we find something worth teaching. I'll see you for the next one.